And once again, we're faced with the glaring reality that the scourge is continuing. It's the same thing every year. Little has changed. A mother, a wife, a daughter is listening to this radio interview this morning at this moment after suffering abuse at the hands of a male figure in their lives, in their households. So I ask, what has changed this time around? What has changed before and after the 16 days of activism? Now, the first national GBV study released last week by the Human Sciences Research Council, it's shown some shocking numbers. Get this, 70% of men believe a woman should obey her husband. 23% believe a woman can never refuse intimacy with her husband. And then 15% believe a husband has the right to punish his wife for perceived wrongdoing. That's what they found. So here we are in the fight against GBV, and what's happened? Well, the focus has changed a little bit. It's shifted. There are new strategies. Joining us is Lisa Vetten, a gender activist and a gender-based violence researcher at Wits University. Hi, good morning, Lisa. Welcome to 702.
Good morning, Ray, and good morning to your listeners.
Also got Craig Wilkinson, a founder and CEO at Father a Nation. Hi, Craig. Good morning.
Morning. Great to be with you.
Good to have you both with us this morning. Lisa, I want to start with you. You heard my introduction. If I had to ask a straight question like, what is the silver bullet to stop men from turning on their wives and children? Is there a silver bullet? Where do we start?
No, there is no silver bullet, and the longer we continue to think there is a silver bullet, the longer we're going to struggle to address the problem. Violence is complex. People don't want to hear that. They want a nice hashtag. They want something they can do that's quick and easy, and then they can move on to another problem. Unfortunately, as I said, violence is complex. It has economic dimensions, historical dimensions, social dimensions, psychological dimensions, and you will need to tackle all of those in order to be able to do something about violence that is meaningful, sustainable, and does have an impact over a long period of time.
Yeah. All right, Craig, I'm going to come to you. You heard what Lisa had to say then. I know that you deal with men and you deal with the issues facing men. To be straight, it's not in a man's makeup or DNA, is it, to be an abuser? Why does this happen then?
100% you're right. And I agree also with Lisa completely. There's no silver bullet. Absolutely no boy's born an abuser. It's not in our DNA as men to abuse. In our DNA is a desire to protect and to be a safe space. So something goes horribly wrong on the journey from boy to man, and that's what we've got to examine. And this HSRC report that's come out is very gratifying in a way to us. We've been beating this drum for about 12 years now, that there are two fundamental big areas. There are many that Lisa also alluded to, but two big areas. One is that mental health issues amongst men. The journey from boy to man can be perilous. Boys grow up into men wounded with a deep sense of inadequacy. I'm not enough. I don't have what it takes. And this leads to all kinds of things in areas of depression and anxiety. And that plays a major role in driving violence. The second one is false notions and false concepts about what it means to be a man and the value of women. Women can never be owned. Women are equal co-creators of the world. This is the truth. But when you believe that masculinity needs to be displayed with power, money, sex, and big boys don't cry, and that women have a place in men, these are narratives that are absolutely false and need to be addressed. So the mental health issues of men, raising young boys to be healthy men, and then also modeling to boys what it means to be a man. These are two fundamental areas, and they're not quick fixes. These take a while.
So, Lisa, if you, like Craig said, if you concentrate on that, that's a great strategy, to concentrate on men who have gone through this, who have developed, issues, who have developed these problems. If you concentrate on them and concentrate on that, that's a major step forward.
Well, it is, but you have to do it fairly carefully, because firstly, you're not going to have a lot of men putting up their hands saying, I have a problem, I am fearful, I am vulnerable, I am anxious. That doesn't fit with what we understand real men to be like. So, you have to work quite hard to encourage men to come forward and firstly admit they have a problem, and secondly to be able to do something about it. I think we live in a society where we allow men a very restricted emotional range. Anger is about it. So what I was saying earlier about fear, vulnerability, anxiety, that tends not to be very permissible for men to feel. And so when they do have those kinds of feelings, it tends to transform itself into anger because that's the one emotion they are comfortable with, and it's the one emotion we do allow men to feel. So it's difficult to get men to come forward. Secondly, I think where you do have a lot of men showing up with disguised mental health difficulties is often in the prison is often in our prison system. We should be providing better assistance there. We can also see it very clearly in substance abuse. And I think in South Africa right now, we do not see enough substance abuse treatment to be able to deal with some of these complexities. So I think it's about doing much more than we currently are doing. I mean, I think we also have to look at our whole child protection system. The research has been around for decades now that children exposed to violence, if they're, and when I say this, I want to be very clear that I'm not saying that this is your automatic fate. If you grew up being neglected, abused, whether emotionally or physically by your parents, you are going to become an abuser or a victim. I am not saying that.
Yeah.
But you are at a risk. And if we don't do something about providing better child protection in South Africa, looking at the adversity under which children are growing up, we can continue to expect this problem to perpetuate itself as well.
Yeah, so concentrate on that, concentrate on children, and concentrate on the whole situation. Lisa, why do you think some men, and I'll be quite frank about this. I'm a guy, all right, so I can talk because I'm a guy. Why do you think some men are damaged? Because some are. Is it because of their family circumstances when growing up, like you said? Or is it also because they're abused at work, they're belittled at work, and then they bring it home?
That can certainly happen. I think we are talking about power here, when we start talking about abuse. And very often, if you can't, power works down. If you cannot hit back at the person who is harming you, you go and look, and I'm being very simplistic here, you go and look for the person who is beneath you, who you can go and translate your feelings of inferiority and subordination onto, and you can once again feel like you can feel like a respected kind of person because you've transferred all those feelings of hurt and, as I said, inferiority onto somebody else. So that is certainly part of the problem. I think you've probably all seen that little cartoon of some man shouting at work, coming home shouting at wife, or girlfriend hits child hits dog.
Yeah.
It's a very simplified way of producing it, but it is that idea that we tend to take out our feelings on other people who we think are lesser to us, who
Yeah.
are lesser than us. So it's a very unfortunate cycle and chain.
All right, Craig, how do men deal with that then? Because Lisa's right. You have your frustrations. It could be from work, or you could have a very difficult environment from which you grew up from. How can a guy deal with that?
Well, just going back a little bit, the biggest question on a boy and a man's heart is, do I have what it takes? Am I enough? Am I adequate for the task as a husband, as a brother, as a citizen, as whatever? And that's the question that needs to be asked or answered for a boy growing up multiple times so that he arrives at manhood with a deep sense of, I don't have to play the man. I am the man. I'm a force for good, and I don't have to act out. So we need to focus very much on raising healthy men by focusing on the boy child. And the boy child's feeling very neglected. I do a lot of work at schools with teenage boys, and they really are feeling, if not demonized, certainly marginalized and left out. And so we need to really grow young boys to be healthy men by affirming them and by saying, guys, in your DNA is a rich heritage of heroism. You're designed to be a force for good. True masculinity is a beautiful force for good. So that's the fundamental basis we need to come from. We run a lot of programs in communities around South Africa where we gather men together, small groups, and we just create a platform where men can talk safely, and remarkable results happen. Most men want to be good men. Most young boys want to grow up to be good men. And so we need to play on this desire of men to be good men and say, guys, it's okay to be vulnerable. And if you create a small group of men with a safe space, they do talk. They do come out, because as soon as a man realizes, hey, I'm not alone in this, I'm not the only guy or dude who's going through this issue, miracles begin to happen. People talk, young men talk if they're safe, and then we teach positive, healthy masculinity. We've got a course called the 6-Pack of Masculine Virtues. So you combine safe space to talk with tuition and teaching around what it means to be a healthy man, and miracles do happen. So there is hope.
It is. And of course, people can also go to your website, Father and Nation.
Correct. Yes, there are some free resources available there.
Yeah. Lisa, final question for you. It's a 16 days campaign once again. Are we making progress?
Well, it really depends on by what we mean by progress and progress in what. I mean, I think the 16 days we can never ever think is going to miraculously change South Africa. It's just too short. It is a relatively shallow intervention, but I mean, it's a campaign. Campaigns are inevitably like that. I think what is useful about it is it raises awareness for people. Those who might not have known there were resources, like Craig's organization, now discover that this exists and they can go and get themselves some help. People perhaps join together and collect funds to support a shelter, for example. So it can have that useful short-term effect of raising awareness. But we should never ever mistake it for being able to bring about, I think, real and substantive change. Because I think part of the reason why people get involved is it is only for 16 days. And it's easier to do something about a problem for 16 days and then move on again for the rest of the year than to have to try to be doing something about it every day.
That's always been the problem, always been that. Lisa Vetten, gender activist and also gender-based violence researcher at Wits University, and Craig Wilkinson, founder and CEO at Father Nation. Thank you so much for coming on this morning, discussing it with us. Lots more discussion is needed.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.